Welcome to Local Heroes here on WKFK DTV7, where we interview veterans of the military and we bring you their stories, unedited and unchanged. So don't go away, we'll be right back with a very interesting story from one of our local veterans. Welcome to Local Heroes here on WKFK TV7, coming to you from the GI Museum. In our last show, we were talking to Major Larry Hatten. He retired from the United States Army after 27 years of service. And in the last show, we talked about his first tour in Vietnam. Welcome back to the show, Larry. If that's okay if I call you Larry. Let's talk about an operation that's probably a lot of people don't know about that you participated in. That's Lam Sung 719. And we got a little chart here again. And did you want to refer to this chart and kind of give us a reference as to where that occurred?
Okay, this area up in northern South Vietnam was the I Corps area, and in it we had Da Nang, Hue, and everybody's familiar with Khe Sanh. Well, out here in Laos there was a town called Chapon, and that was part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So the Vietnamese were going to try to cut this trail and stop the flow of supplies and men to the south. So they came up with Operation Lam Sung 719, and the Americans called it Dewey Canyon 2. So that was in 1971. It started in February. And I just arrived in country, and I was out there on Khe Sanh. And it was a big operation, a lot of helicopter units, but they were ferrying, the helicopters were ferrying troops to all the fire bases out in Laos. And there's another chart over here.
Another chart over here.
If you go up from Da Nang, up Highway 1, there's Quang Tri, and then you come to Dong Ha. And then from there, there's a highway that goes on out. The first elements went in to open this highway. And they started building I was out here on this one called Khe Sanh. It was actually called Ham Ni by the Vietnamese. It was a high hill, and they had a helicopter pad on there where they load troops out and send them in. And they were bringing them from several other locations. But the object was to take the troops on out here into Chapon. But there was an underestimate of the number of anti-aircraft artillery that were out there in Laos. And after the operation began, then the North Vietnamese started moving more units in there. So you had all of these troops out here on these little isolated landing zones, and the North Vietnamese would surround them, and then they had tanks out there. So once they got enough anti-aircraft, the helicopters couldn't get in there to get them, and then they would overrun the site. And a lot of the South Vietnamese were lost out there. Okay, I was out there as the G2 Air, but in the Vietnamese Army and I Corps, they didn't trust the G3. So they had the B-52 bombing mission in the G2 shop. So I had a counterpart, a little captain called Dai Wei Tan, and he spoke pretty good English, and he was my counterpart. He'd come up with a target, bring it to me, I'd check it out, make sure it was good, and I'd take it across the river there in Da Nang to the 24 Corps. They would go through the same procedure, and then they'd put it in the system to go down to Saigon, and then they would evaluate all the targets, and then they would come back, send messages of which ones they were going to bomb, so that would come to me, and then I would tell my counterpart, and then he would go tell his boss. So that was what we did every day after Lam Sung 719. But during Lam Sung 719, there was so much activity going on in Laos out there that they cut this cycle of 3 days down to put them in the air and let them come. And then we give them a target as they came in. So they dropped a lot of bombs, killed a lot of enemy, some friendlies. But the guys that really caught the brunt, the American guys, were all the helicopter units. Some of them lost 60, 70, 80% of their helicopters. And I forgot what the count is, 700 and something aviators.
Right. Now, y'all were doing all of this. Y'all were directing all this, and you were coming up with all these targets, and you were directing all these B-52s. This was before the age of the computer.
Right. This was all.
So it was all.
I'm not a radio whiz, but they had these secure radios, the VHF, the Americans. Right. The Vietnamese didn't have them, but the Americans had them. So the object was the Vietnamese get it to me, I get it to the Americans. They put it in the encrypted system, and it went to Saigon.
But you were typing it basically with an old
stubby pencil.
A stubby pencil, okay. You're writing it with a stubby pencil.
Yeah.
And you were getting this done.
Take a map and put 4 points on it and draw a box. B-52s usually ran in a cell of 3. And anything within a box 1 kilometer by 3 kilometers would be wiped out whenever they came in. So it would be a bad day if you were even underground when the B-52s hit, because they were dropping 500-pounders and
like 112 500-pound bombs each. And a kilometer, how big did you say that was?
1 kilometer by 3 kilometer box.
So that's a couple of miles long and about a mile or so wide.
Yeah. And
it's all gone. It's history. It's no more.
The way they did it, there were sites that would coordinate the B-52, and when he got to that point, he would drop. It was under somebody else's guidance. So they were pretty accurate.
And you were doing all this with a stubby pencil. Hats off to you. That's
from where
stubby
we were.
Pencil.
Yeah.
No.
We were in a bunker, as a picture over there. And they would shell us about twice a day with 122 millimeter rockets, just to let us know they were out there. And there was a Ranger battalion providing security. And we'd run out, go to the bathroom, run back in the bunker. But if one of those 122 millimeter rockets hit that bunker, it was all over anyway.
Yeah.
They would shake that whole mountain when they would hit. But the funniest story that happened, the Ranger advisor was a big black fella. I can't remember his name. And he was out on the back berm going to the bathroom. And a rocket came right over the hill over his head. And he came running back in.
Real quick.
Yeah, we learned to run out, run in.
So describe you're living underground, basically, kind of like a rat.
Yeah, a lot of sandbags.
Sandbags. There's a picture of your bunker there. And what other kind of living conditions can you tell us about?
We had a cot, and we get visited periodically by, it was a lieutenant colonel that came out, and I said, bring me a case of beer. So he brought me a case of beer out there.
Obviously, it wasn't cold beer.
The Ranger advisor had a little refrigerator, though.
Oh, okay.
So we could get a cold beer. So that made it tolerable out there.
And what were you eating?
MREs.
Sea rations.
Yeah. They just developed MREs where you could heat it up and eat it.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't too bad.
No.
It wasn't too good, but it wasn't too bad.
You weren't that hungry. You were scared to death, basically.
So that's what you did mainly on your second tour in Vietnam?
That's what I did out there when I was on the Lamson 719. The Vietnamese lost half their troops. They beat up the NVA pretty good, and they weren't a threat for a while. So the rest of my tour, I just run B-52 targets. I was on the briefing staff. Every other day I'd brief the general. I was the G2 advisor briefer. And I was also the G2 air advisor for I Corps. And the Vietnamese G2 air didn't fly. He stayed in the bunker. So I would go out flying with the 01 squadron, which is a little Piper Cub.
A bird dog.
Bird dog, like you saw Henry Fonda in the Battle of the Bulge riding in that little plane.
Yeah.
But that got hairy. I had some close calls in the little bird dog.
Low and slow.
Yeah, we got up in the High Van Pass, which is right outside of Da Nang. Da Nang sits in a sucker bowl, they call it, and there's mountains all around it. And you get up in the mountains, and the downdrafts was pulling that little plane nearly all the way to the ground. And then I went out one day with a warrant officer, and he'd had a few the night before, I guess. and they were shooting some 80-inch out there at some VC in the valley, Happy Valley they called it, and he dove on them. And I remember going right by the VC bunker, and he pulled it out. And then one day one of the guys missed the runway coming in, and he bounced it too soon. Another day we were taking off, and there came a ammunition trailer right across the runway, and we barely cleared that. Another day we were taking off, and the engine caught on fire. He hit that throttle, and the engine caught on fire, and he's screaming, "Get out, get out, get out." But in an 01, you can't get out till the pilot gets out.
That's
and
right.
I was in the back seat. So I got out with my headset, everything hooked up. But you'd be surprised how fast you can get out of an airplane.
It's on fire.
It's on fire.
So did you lose the aircraft?
No, they put it out. It was one of the throttle lines was shooting gasoline into the engine. It broke when it hit the throttle. So, but that was the last 01 squadron in the United States Army. Then they turned them over to the Vietnamese.
And this was
1971.
1971.
Yeah, and then, you know, daytime we'd have a 2-hour lunch. We'd go to China Beach and run up and down in the surf. And it was nearly like the USA out at China Beach.
Yeah. And then your tour of Vietnam ended shortly thereafter?
I came back. It was 12 months after I went over there. And I went to the Military Intelligence Advanced Course at Fort Huachuca. So that was the end of my combat experience. Yeah, the things I really feel that I did, you know, I was proud to do was get my airborne wings, because I'm afraid of heights, and just jumping out of an airplane took a lot of guts. But I did it. Then I went back to the airborne. I was in the airborne for a year and a half at Fort Bragg, and I served at, a year with the Snake Eaters, Special Forces there at Fort Bragg, and played a lot of tennis.
Which you still play today.
And I still try to play today, yeah. I was inter-service doubles champion, a junior vet, that's 35 and over.
In America?
Yeah,
And
Army, Navy, Air Force.
And then you were in Vietnam?
Inter-service, yeah. So I'm not a tremendous tennis player, but you get the conditions right, you can win sometimes.
Well, we're going to have to take a short break right here,
Okay.
and we'll be back, and we're going to tell you more about this interesting story here on Local Heroes on WKFK TV7. Don't go away. Welcome back to Local Heroes here on WKFK TV7. We're talking with retired Major Larry Hatten, 27 years, United States Army, 2 tours in Vietnam. And Major Hatten, we've got a shadow box here, and it's got probably every patch of almost every unit you may have served in this shadow box.
Yeah, I tried to put this together so it had every unit that I was in from the beginning here. This is Army ROTC, which was, I went to USM and I was in ROTC. And back then, the president of the college was a brigadier general. And he liked to have all the freshmen and sophomore in ROTC. So we could turn out a couple of 100 troops.
Wow.
Probably 300 or 400 troops if everybody showed up. And my class had something like 26 ROTC officers graduate, big class. Then I went to the signal school at Fort Gordon, Georgia. That's their patch. And then over to Fort Benning, that's the Follow Me, the infantry patch, where I went to airborne school and I was in the 3rd Army. Then I went to Europe, that's USARA, United States Army Europe. Looks like the old shape patch that they had, a little different. Then I was in the STRATCOM, Strategic Communications Command. And then I went to Vietnam. I was an advisor, but I was assigned to United States Army Vietnam, who was attached to MACV. But we still did the same job as the MACV people.
And MACV stands for Military Assistance Command Vietnam.
Vietnam. But just a different patch we wore. Then I went back to This is Fort Lee, Virginia.
Yes.
I finally remember it. But the guy couldn't. This patch was put in later. Actually, it should have been maybe somewhere else. But this is the 7th Vietnamese Infantry Division patch. And that's what all the troops there wore. This is Military Assistance Command Vietnam. And then I served a tour with 8th Army in Korea. This is the 8th Army patch. Then I went back to Fort Bragg, where I served with the Airborne. And this is my flasher that I used to wear on my little red beret. And then I was over at with John F. Kennedy Center for Military Assistance. That was the Special Forces back in those days. And then I got out, and I was in some reserve units. That's Theater Army Command, 122nd Army Command, 95th Training Division. And then I retired, and I even worked over at the airfield, Army Airfield, with AVCRAD, Army. I'm not sure what AVCRAD stands for, but they repair all the night stuff, the FLIRs.
And the helicopters.
Yeah. And I was there when they kicked off Afghanistan, and we shipped everything we had. They were scraping the shelves trying to come up with everything to ship.
This was right after 9/11.
Yeah.
And we have another case that we want to talk about. There we go. These are your military awards and decorations.
This is sort of a composite of what I have on my uniform. They call that fruit salad when you get all the bars there, but these are the actual medals for it. This is the Combat Infantry Badge, 30 days in combat. This is Air Crewman Badge. I flew with the 01 Squadron in Vietnam. This is the 18th Corps Sky Dragons, they call them. Then this is the Army award for MACV for outstanding, being an outstanding unit. This one is the Bronze Star for Valor. This is the regular Bronze Star for Meritorious Service, Purple Heart, Air Medal. These are Army Commendation Medals. Then there's some just for being in the military medals. And this is the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Bronze Star. They gave it to me. These some staff service medals, and then everybody who went to Vietnam got one of these.
There's actually a picture of you with receiving that Vietnam Gallantry Cross, is there not? I believe I've seen that picture, which we'll show on the screen so you can see it. So you finished out your career and you retired. Obviously, if you've been there and done that, you've got 3 Bronze Stars. One was Valor, and you've got the Purple Heart. Mr. Hatten, you're one heck of a guy.
Yeah. Well, I lost my hearing on the left side, and I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, bad dreams at night, night sweats, startled. I was in Walmart one day coming out the line, and a little kid behind me popped a balloon, and I was down under the counter.
Oh.
But it's automatic. Yeah. When you hear that round, you go down.
So what did you think of the Vietnamese troops that you served with in Vietnam?
The Vietnamese Army had 2 very good units. The 7th was a good unit.
And you happened to be
I
those.
ended up with the 7th. And then the 1st Division up on the DMZ. The 7th Division, the Ziem, who was the president, kept them there to keep him from having a coup and throwing him out of office. But the guys that were doing the coup stuff, they outsmarted him. They transferred the 7th Division to 3 Corps, and then they had the coup. So the 7th Division couldn't come help him.
But they were good troops.
Oh,
They were
the little recon guys, they were life expectancy 1 year. they would be the first guys in. And that's how they made their living. You go in a village, the ducks, the chickens, the dogs, everything, they put them in their shirt. And then you'd live off the countryside. They had a little rice. They take a banana stalk, shred it up, make a salad, take green bananas, boil them, make it like a potato, taste it like a potato. And then they'd take a hand grenade and throw it in the creek, and up come the fish. So they just throw them whole in a fire and then scrape off the char. So basically they lived off the land.
So that's what you were eating when you were out with them?
Yeah, I'd take a couple of sea rations with me, though.
Oh, okay.
Because a chicken foot I just can't eat.
Oh, no, I don't blame you. But you did have to be out there with them, and you did have to eat the local food sometimes.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Several days at a time.
And you got in some heavy
And
okay.
I got some stomach problems from that.
I bet.
Yeah. Walked one day in water. It was a rainy season down in Four Corps up to here, walking through the rice paddies, and no water. And the sun's beating down. It comes right up under your helmet off the water. And we saw this big vat there. It was in a hut, an elevated place. You can get over there, you know, there's mosquitoes swimming around in the stuff. You dip it out and put your pills in there, the chlorine pills to purify the water and drink away. Because, you know, American, he's going to drink 3 or 4 canteens at least a day. Vietnamese, they'd maybe take a thimbleful, and they could walk all day on it.
Then we go through. Very big guys.
They were 80, 90 pounds.
And they were carrying almost that much weight with them.
Yeah, they were tough little guys. Yeah, I've been stuck in the mud up to my waist before and couldn't get out. We were crossing this canal, and they just went tripping right on across, and I went in and I sank up to my waist and I couldn't get out. I tired myself out. Finally, my radio operator got me out, but I heard shooting going on the other bank. So by the time I got over there was a dead VC laying there, and one of the ARVN had been shot in the leg. And so I looked at the dead VC and I said, "Where's his weapon?" "No weapon, no weapon." And I went over and pointed to the wounded ARVN. I said, "Well, how did he get this then?" Then the little company commander pulled this Chi-Com pistol out of his belt, and that was worth probably a couple $100 down in Saigon. So he was going to make some money off of that.
So obviously they didn't get paid much.
No, very little. Very
they
little.
were conscripts.
The recon guys were mostly volunteer.
But the majority of the ARVN troops were conscript.
Yeah, most of the troops weren't that great. Like down in Four Corps, the 9th Division, it was down around Canto, wasn't worth anything. The 21st Division was it was down in Four Corps, it was pretty good. There was an advisory detachment ambushed. They were on a convoy, and they got ambushed, and all the Americans got wiped out while I was there. And we lost some guys in my advisory detachments. Sergeant Bills, he was out on in one of these search and destroy things and caught a bullet in the head. Captain Doyle was flying during Tet, and his Mohawk went down. So several guys. And throw it in my ROTC advisor at USM, the guy we really respected was Captain Petty. He was Airborne Ranger. He was in command of a battalion at Hue during Tet, and he stopped to put his boots on, and a mortar round cut him in half. So he's another guy I know that didn't make it. So there's 4 or 5 guys on that Vietnam Wall that I know, and I came that close. So.
Well, we're glad you're still here, obviously.
And I have a classmate down here on the Vietnam Wall. He was our high school quarterback.
Well, Larry, we've come to the end of the show, and I want to say that the Vietnam veteran is probably one of the most misunderstood and underappreciated veteran out there. And I want to thank you for your service in the United States military for 27 years. Yeah. I mean, without guys like you, we wouldn't have our freedom today. And I want to thank you for being here on Local Heroes.
Okay.
And thank you for watching Local Heroes right here on WKFK TV 7. Join us again next time for another exciting show. We'll see you then. Thank you for watching this edition of Local Heroes here on WKFK DTV 7. where each week we bring you a story about a veteran, unedited, unchanged, and in their own words. So join me again next week here on WKFK DTV7, or visit our website at WKFK.com for archive shows about local heroes.